Hello everyone. I'm your mediator, Amina Gassanova. We're continuing our session of conferences with experts from different countries. Today we have the respected Ramiro Rodriguez representing Uruguay, who has kindly joined us. Good morning, Professor. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Amina.
We're glad to hear from you. So if you're ready, let's start with the first question.
Okay. Go.
So our first question is, Uruguay has a long-standing tradition. Okay.
No, just to say hello, everyone.
Oh, okay.
My dear
I got it.
Agota, whom I saw her earlier today, and nothing else. I'm here in my desk in Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain. You can see it in the map in the very tip of Spain. Well, this is my flag, the flag of my country here. And we are just, we're very happy because tonight we won a football match, very important for us. We beat Argentina. It was a very important football match for us, so we're happy. We're happy now. So
Okay.
sorry
So
for
we'll start.
So we can go ahead with the first question if you want.
Yes, thank you. So our first question is, Uruguay has a long-standing tradition of neutrality and non-intervention in international conflicts. How does Uruguay maintain this stance in a world marked by regional tensions and conflicts?
Oh, it's a very good first question. Neutrality is sort of cornerstone of our country. It's been one of the reasons or the main reason for Uruguay's birth, because its own existence as a state is due to the necessity of a neutrality territory then in the 19th century between two big players such as Argentina and Brazil, earlier the Spanish and the Portuguese empires. So from the very incept of our state, neutrality has been sort of policy of state in our case, and we try to keep it to be up to this concept. This continued quest for equilibrium between regional powers such as Argentina, Brazil, and in a greater extent Europe, North America, and now China is part of our DNA, let's say. And being a small country in terms of economy, military, and political power, Uruguay has another way out than to be very respectful of international law, in which neutrality is one of key principles, let's say, to not to interfere in other countries' businesses. So in every forum my country is part of, neutrality is a very, very important issue. All Uruguayan governments try to be aligned to, no matter which political party is in the government.
Thank you very much for your response.
By the way,
I now
if you want to make another question, just go ahead. Feel free to do it.
Okay. I now yield the floor to my colleague Batyrzhan Shindauletov.
Hello, Professor.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. And my question is, what are Uruguay key trade partners, and how does it promote its economic interests abroad, and how has its foreign policy influenced trade agreements and economic development?
Okay. Your name is Batyrzhan. I don't know how to pronounce it, but nice to meet you. And no, the main trade partners of my country are Brazil and China. In fact, China has been growing as a very important commercial partner, being the most important partner in the last years. I don't know, disputing the first and second place with Brazil. But the fact is, China buys practically 30% of Uruguayan exports, which is quite a number. And of course, it's a very, very important player or client for Uruguayan products. As a matter of fact, our president is traveling tomorrow with a big delegation of businessmen from my country to China. So, you know, it's a very important trading partner. So, you know, what does it mean in terms of the income of money, of dollars for our economy? And Brazil, of course, regional trade has been always the traditional way of trading in my country. But from some years on, we learned some lessons from crisis, from regional crisis, either in Argentina or in other parts of the region. So we started a process of diversification of exports, which led to that we have now some clients which may be strange at first sight, like, well, of course, China, but that is not surprising for anyone. But for instance, Algeria, which is a very important trading partner of Uruguay, especially for dairy products of my country. You know, my country is among the main exporter of some products, like, of course, meat, but also rice, dairy products, pulp, wool. So we have many markets in all these products. So to sum up, after Brazil and China, the main trading partners, we have the European Union, of course. We have the United States. We have some important exports of oranges, lemons, and sheep meat. And then we have the region. We have Argentina. We have Mexico, and so on. The question followed: how has the foreign policy influenced trade agreement? No, Uruguay, no, is as I said, a very small country in terms of economy. We have just 3.5 million inhabitants. We are a very small population. And of course, the internal market is very reduced, especially in these days of economy of scale. So as well as we were talking about the very same day we were talking about neutrality, our openness, or the openness of our market is a must, is an imperative, or a survival imperative, let's say, for our economy. We have to open our economy, and we have to boost our exports, because it's the only way our enterprises and our businessmen can go on and can survive. Having said so, we, as you know, there's another question about it. Uruguay is member of Mercosur, is the South Cone market, which was created in 1991, is as a aim to be a customs union. That means more than a free trade area or free trade zone. But we have difficulties to fully implement this customs area, due to some differences between all the members. You know, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Due to, well, the four countries have different industrial policies, different economic policies. So this make that the agreement doesn't work, or doesn't be as good or as effective as we would like to. Having said so, Uruguay has tried to promote by our own agreements of free trade. We have an agreement of a free trade area agreement with Mexico, and we have, of course, we are exploring new alternatives, just a free trade agreement with China, which I hope or I suppose will be one of the talking points that our president will talk with Xi Jinping during his visit in Beijing. Let me see. What else is the question? Well, I think it's okay with that. Anyway, as said, if you want to make a new question about it, it's okay with me.
So thank you for such detailed answer to my question. And let's move to another student, Temirbekov Zhakiya.
Hello, dear professor.
Hello, how are you?
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
My question is regarding to the Mercosur organization. As I know, Uruguay is one of the founding members of the Mercosur organization, which is the largest common market in the South Americas. And I'm really curious to know about the what roles Uruguay play in the initiatives and policies in this organization.
Well, Zhakiya, thank you very much for the question. You're right, Uruguay is a founding member of Mercosur in March of 1991. We are this organization is more than 30 years old. And as I said, it hasn't been as good or as effective as we dreamed. Just because of the differences between the different approach or the different policies the own members have. You know, being such different, the four members, especially the two biggest ones, Argentina and Brazil, it's somehow difficult to go ahead or to reach a consensus in many topics. That's because well, different stances or approaches for some hot spot or hot issues, like the tension between protectionism and free trade. You know, Argentina and Brazil, as biggest markets, and have very big populations, practically 50 million people in Argentina and more than 200 million people in Brazil. They can do, or they can be more permissive or more, let's say, took some measures in order to protect their economy, because they have a very big internal market, and they have a very strong potential industrial sector they have to defend. So there is a tension between the need to protect the sector, because you know that the trade unions are behind them, and all what does it mean to protect the industry. But Uruguay doesn't have that big problem. Uruguay, as I said, has to promote or to boost his exports, because it's the only way the local enterprises can survive. So the tension between free trade and protectionism in Uruguay is not that. It's just everyone, despite, of course, the need of protect some of our small industry, but our industry must be oriented to the export sector, must be oriented abroad, because we don't have, as I said, a very attractive internal market. So the consensus needed to continue to go ahead with Mercosur sometimes has this sort of hurdles or obstacles to be reached, because Argentina and Brazil sometimes tend to be more cautious about going ahead, about liberalizing commerce. This I want to point as an example. Uruguay, my country, has been asking Mercosur members, the rest of Mercosur members, mainly Argentina and Brazil, to let him go ahead negotiating and signing a free trade agreement on our own. I mean, a sort of waiver of the umbrella of the customs union, so that Uruguay can go looking for new trading partners and looking for new negotiating partners for an agreement. But this thing Uruguay has been asking for some years already, and no matter who is the president of Uruguay, and no matter the political party the president of Uruguay is, has been systematically rejected by Argentina and Brazil and also Paraguay, because they think, or they still defend the position that together, of course, we have more negotiating power. Of course, it's a fact that, but despite agreeing with this that negotiating in common will be more fruitful or more efficient for Mercosur members, Uruguay is asking sort of waiver so that it can continue on his own negotiating just a free trade agreement with Uruguay and other commercial partners. That's the case of China. That's the case of Turkey. Well, we are in this sort of struggle which puts us in a position sort of a dead end, because that's forbid us for advancing on our own, but at the same time there are no advancements at all regarding common negotiations. And another fact that I think it is important, was part of the let's say democratic game, is that well, it happens in every integration mechanism that we have to be respectful, or sometimes the measures of the decisions have to be postponed until new governments arrives at any of the members. For example, next Sunday there will be held elections in Argentina for a new president, which will be taking power next December, next month. And till now, we have to wait. First of all, who will win, because we really is not certain. It's not certain yet. But after we know who will win the elections, how he will perform the political and industrial policy, and afterwards the external policy. That includes Mercosur, of course. So we have to sometimes the integration mechanisms sometimes are not at fluent or don't have the velocity we would like to, due to these processes, internal processes, that we of course have to be respectful.
Thank you for the answer. Muchas gracias.
De
And
nada.
in the end of my speech, I would like to say that Uruguay and diplomatic relationships with Uruguay and Kazakhstan will be, I believe that will be further developed in the different fields and serving as the bridge between America and Asia. So thank you, and I have the honor to give a speech to the next speaker, Alikhan.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, dear
Good evening.
Professor Rodriguez. So today I have question 2. So for asking how, like, in the states of Uruguay's relations with its neighbors, especially with Argentina and Brazil, and is there any regional challenges?
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well, it doesn't appear your name here. Well, thank you very much for the question. Well, I started to answer it in a way. With Argentina, we are practically friends. I imagine that the similar thing may happen with some of your neighbors here in Kazakhstan, because we belong to the very same Spanish Empire for more than 300, 400 years. And finally, as we just said, at the 19th century, our territory started to undergo a process of nationalism, which finally led to our independence, thanks to the help of the British Empire, which saw at that time that Uruguay could be a very reliable partner, or reliable neutral partner in the middle of Argentina and Brazil. That's how our story starts there. But with Argentina, we have, of course, very similarities, especially in the area of the Rio de la Plata, River Plate, where Buenos Aires and Montevideo are situated. From you, it may be the very same thing, the way an Argentinian or an Uruguayan talk. Of course, we do differentiate ourselves, but we talk practically the same. We had a lot of contact each other's one people with the other. There's a lot of points in common regarding the way of thinking, the way of living, local habits, food, like entertainment. We are very much alike, and we have some, of course, economic. Despite this sort of cultural and social bonds, we have economic ones. To start with, tourism. With the main overseas tourists in Uruguay are the Argentinian people, especially during summertime. Uruguay gets packed with Argentinian people, and they come to spend their summer holidays to my country. And you have to, if you want afterwards, you can Google through Ruta del Este, which is one of a very luxury and posh seaside resort in Uruguay, which is really worth visiting it. And well, it's full of Argentina, which not only go there to spend their time there, their holidays, but also an important place of investment. because one thing I would like to remark is that Uruguay, all along this let's say, this 20, 30 years, has been building a very reliable, or have been becoming a very important investment place or country, because there is a very solid democracy. There are very solid institutions, like, which are of course needed for secure investment. Let's say an independent judiciary power. There are many policies of states. That means no matter who's in power, no matter the political party in power, there are some things that want to change, and that's very good for the investor. Let's say that we have a very attractive investment framework, just for this reason, to attract investment from overseas. And that's made that many Argentinian businessmen, Argentina has been undergoing different crises all along this economic crisis, especially all along this year, has made that many businessmen decided to invest heavily in Uruguay, real estate, for instance, and even living in Uruguay. After the pandemic, but during the pandemic, there were a very important flux of Argentinian that moved to Uruguay to live, because, well, the conditions in my country were far better than in Argentina. So that is some sort of examples that you may see, you may feel the importance of how close our relations with them are. On the other side, Brazil. To start with, Brazil belonged to the Portuguese Empire. We also belonged to the Portuguese Empire during some years in the early 19th century, but well, it's another story. If you want, I can tell you, of course. But well, Brazil belonged to a different mindset, because, of course, they were born under the Portuguese crown. So to start with, there is another language, which is similar to Spanish, but Portuguese is another language. And well, it's a much bigger player than Argentina. My country fits 45 times in Brazil. So we are very tiny compared to Brazil's territory. Nevertheless, we have a very intense, of course, agenda of relations. We share, I don't know, maybe 300 kilometers of frontier with Brazil. We have, as I said earlier, it's a very important trading partner for us. The first, second trading partner, depending on the moment we are analyzing, and of course, it's always a very, very important country for us, especially as talking about Mercosur, being the most important country of Mercosur, sort of the engine of Mercosur. Of course, its positions or the relation between governments is always an important issue to be taken into consideration. Of course, I want to say a few words, if you let me, about Paraguay. Paraguay, we do not share direct frontiers, as you may see in the map, but being a Mediterranean country, because Paraguay doesn't have direct rivers or direct access to the sea. And in Uruguay, has negotiated different agreements with them, so that Paraguayan goods can be unloaded or loaded on Uruguayan ports, so that Paraguay or Paraguay enterprises can use Uruguayan facilities in ports, seaports, of course, so that trade for them would be facilitated, let's say.
Mhm.
Another one, okay, shoot.
Mhm. So,
I hear you.
okay, yeah, thanks for your answer. It's just a bit of connection issue. So, okay, please welcome the next speaker, Shigirova Aruzhan.
Hello, Professor.
Hello, how are you?
My question is, I'm good, thank you. My question is, how is Uruguay involved in international organization and initiatives related to human rights, peacekeeping, and also to the humanitarian efforts?
Okay, thank you very much. That's very good. A very good question. Read it again. Human rights, peacekeeping, humanitarian efforts. No, we talking about in boxing terminology, Uruguay punches above its weight. You know, in boxing, it depends on the weight of the boxer that the category it has to include it. Uruguay, it is said in international fora that Uruguay punches as if it was bigger than what actually is, because from the because Uruguay from the very, let's say, when the consolidation of our national state by the second half of 19th century, Uruguay has been a very active participant in international organizations. For you to know, Uruguay ranks among the first 10 blue helmets, United Nations blue helmets suppliers per capita, taking in consideration our population, as a way to show our commitment with multilateralism. And it has a very active role in peacekeeping missions, such as Congo, such as Lebanon, Cyprus, and Egypt. And our Uruguayan soldiers are very well renowned, were very recognized, acknowledged by the United Nations system. So in this sense, this very sense, being an active participant on peacekeeping missions and humanitarian issues, Uruguay always has a voice that is listened, that is asked, that is make us say that motto that Uruguay punches about is way due to this very active participation, and of course in human rights, Uruguay has been chairing several times already the Human Rights Council, and it's been sort of referent in some issues, like the way we finally arrived to the solution after our dictatorship in the mid-80s. So I'm proud to say that my country is an active participant, and even I dare to say a leader in the multilateral arena.
Thank you for your answer. Now another student, Auken Diana.
Okay.
What are Uruguay's key alliances and partnership with other countries or groups, and how does it use this relationship to advance its foreign policy objectives?
Okay. All right, let me go through the question once again. Okay. Well, as I already said, Uruguay is a country very much committed with multilateralism. It's been a founding member of United Nations in 1945, and all this previous process, of course, it's been a member of the League of Nations. You know, it's the previous organization that emerged after the World War I. It's one been, as already stated, been of leading countries in terms of defense of multilateralism from the very consolidation of our states in the second half of 19th century. From that moment on, it started by advocating, let's say, for the creation of an inter-American system. In America, it was the embryo of the Organization of American States in 1948. And this is the inter-American system, has very solid pillars or solid foundations in terms of international law. And Uruguay has been a leader, or has demonstrated its leadership regarding some measures or some rules regarding international law in order to build an international, or at least an inter-American international law system, which is highly reputed or highly esteemed outside our region. That's the reason why not only Uruguayan lawmakers or lawyers and jurists, but also inter-American ones from the whole region, let's say America, Argentina, Venezuela, Mexico, so on, had a very active participation in the process of consolidating the universal system in United Nations. In terms of economic relations and integration, Uruguay has been also an active leader, for the reasons I've already said, in the creation of the, let's say, the Latin American free trade area, ALALC in Spanish, in 1960, which organization that in 1980 turned into Latin America Association of Integration, ALADI. Both organizations, either ALALC and ALADI, had and have their headquarters in my city, my capital city, Montevideo, which also shows this sort of commitment from my country with multilateralism and in a world ruled by law. I didn't mention that, of course, the capital of Mercosur is Montevideo too. In fact, the Secretariat of Mercosur, the administrative secretariat of Mercosur, lies in Montevideo too, very close to the Secretary of Latin America Integration Association, which is an organization that's still alive, that's still working. In fact, I don't want to mess you with all these details, but Mercosur was a treaty, the Treaty of 1991, as I said, was negotiated under the umbrella of the juridical frame of ALADI. You can go more in depth afterwards, but it was the consolidation or creation or the creation of ALADI in 1980 that allowed the possibility of negotiating trade agreements between different partners in the region, and that's the reason, or that's the legal possibility that makes the creation, that led to the creation of Mercosur in 1991. So there is a very a strong relation between ALADI and Mercosur. Well, that is examples of where I see this question regarding partnerships of countries and groups. Of course, Uruguay is members of many different international fora, like CELAC is the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. Recently, it have tried to apply the membership of more faraway organizations. You know, it's been one of the first members of the overseas members of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, based in Beijing, as a, let's say, as a consequence or byproduct of its membership to the Belt and Road Initiative, which in fact was one of the very first countries in South America to be accepted as a member of the BRI, and recently it's been included in the new development banks, the banks of BRICS countries. And you know, there's a way to show you that Uruguay tries to be or has or have their eggs in different baskets. You know.
Thank you very much. Your answer was very interesting. And I give the floor to Amina.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So I have another question for you, Professor. So my question is, Uruguay has been referred to as Switzerland, like of the America, due to the several factors that share some similarities between the European country and Uruguay. So my question is, why has Uruguay come to be known as like Switzerland of America, and what are the reasons behind this like designation?
Well, you know, that's motto of Switzerland of the America, where of course sometimes in some interviews or some conferences still arises, provoke us somewhere nostalgia, because we are no longer Switzerland of the Americas, but this is a denomination or a motto that try to show a situation or a status our country had, especially in the very first part of the first half of 20th century. You know, I dare to say that the climax of this denomination was the year 1950, when we achieved the World Football Cup in Brazil, beating the Brazilian team in the final match, and was shown as a proof that, well, there was a sort of a big power or economic big power in the world, not only in terms of economy or culture, but also in football. And well, that was no longer the case, because we didn't win anything more after that Mundial Championship in 1950. But I tell you what are the reasons, or what I see the main reasons that were sort of catalogated or named as the Switzerland of America. My country has during the first part of the 20th century, it built what we call a welfare state. In fact, it is said to be one of the very first welfare states in the world, due to a very advanced social legislation in terms of defending the workforce, defending the women, For instance, in 1907, it was passed the law that allowed women to get divorced by their only will. 1907. You can see that was very of advance in that moment. We have been pioneer in social rights, like the working day of 8 hours, which was the law was passed in 1913. The different benefits for the worker, like holidays and all these social and laboral rights for them. And it was in fact the very first country to allow the women to vote in 1927. So you can see some important spots or examples that make you make the construction or the idea that, well, in fact, Uruguay was a very advanced country. Economically was working very well, because due to the conflicts, the war conflicts, the World War, the first and the second, Uruguay as a primary products exporter had experienced a boom of exports during those periods of during the wars and the interwar period, which it finally came to an end after, let's say, the Korean War in 1953, and then we started to face some problems. Latin America was kept sort of in the middle of the struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, and well, all this led to different social problems. Not to mention the deterioration of local industry, local economy, which finally led to a coup d'etat in 1973, which was let's say the main. That's very similar scene. It happened anywhere in Latin America during the 60s and 70s. That's the reason why we call it Switzerland of America. In those days, of course, specifically the election of Switzerland is precisely due to the neutrality. The neutrality Switzerland always had and still has. The commitment for international law, the commitment for humanitarian law, commitment for human rights. So that's the main reasons Uruguay has had that motto.
Thank you very much for your response. It is interesting to know that while the comparison between Switzerland and Uruguay is metaphorical, it doesn't imply an existence parallel in all aspects, but still Uruguay's stable political environment, historical events, and economic factors that you mentioned, like shares certain similarities with this European country. It was really a great answer. Thank you so much. So now I yield the floor to my colleague, Yelzhan. Bayakpayev, please.
Hello, Professor. And I had a question too. What were the reasons behind Uruguay becoming the first country in the world fully legalized marijuana? And how was this policy received by other Latin American countries? What impact do you believe it has had on the population?
Well, that's a very interesting question. This topic of cannabis and marijuana precisely attires a lot of attention, because in fact it was the first country to legalize marijuana in 2013, and the main cause for this, of course, was very controversial. Still is controversial in my country. There's no strong consensus about it, but the main reason, or one of the main reasons, is to tackle trafficking. You know, drug trafficking is one of the most important problems in terms of crime in not only in Latin America but also in Uruguay. So it was thought that trying to legalize marijuana, let's say, to put it on the limelight and not on the shadow or in the dark, and try to regulate in some way consumption with a record of consumers, and trying to improve the quality of the product. All these different issues would lead to a better performance of the whole problem. This is to tackle or to prevent trafficking from growing and growing. That's the situation we've been seeing in our continent, and unfortunately it's not solved. Even Uruguay is not solved. The consequence after 10 years of legalization of marijuana, I'd say that the impact of the consequences are ambiguous, because on first place, regarding the quality, there's been a diversion for locally grown marijuana or cannabis that has had a positive impact, because of the quality is far better than the marijuana that was bought from abroad, and that's better for health, of course. Besides, it was with the law, it was supposed that the law would boost local industry of cannabis for medical purposes, and cannabis export precisely for medical and non-medical purposes, for cosmetics, you know. And that's that's not had the result that were expected. Mainly in this case of exports and industry, because there's a very important issue about financing and the prohibitions or bans international banks have regarding this kind of business. You know, there are many countries that bans their banks to deal with this kind of business. So it is difficult for the businessmen to grow and specifically export or sell abroad the products when there's no bank or there's no lender that can facilitate the commercial operation. So it's one of the points that they are still working on, because I have to say that we saw an increase of investments in cannabis for medical and non-medical purposes, especially from Canada. Enterprises from Canada invested heavily in plants in Uruguay, and Chile started from the year 2018. Uruguay started Chile to export cannabis, and there are different products. I'm not an expert, but seeds, flowers, all different parts of the plant, and also some elaborated products like creams, you know. That's still uncertainty, some uncertainty with the whole sector is facing regarding precisely how it will cope about financing and how to go to this financial financing barriers. And in terms of the population, you know, well, it's true that after the passing the law, there's been a sort of explosion of shops, of cannabis shops, and you can, when you walk in through the strolls of the streets of the cities of my country, you smell the smell of marijuana. There's no problem at all, and it's working very. They are at pharmacies. There must be a record of consumers that, as far as I know, is working quite well. But well, I don't know if consumption has especially grown through these years. I don't know really. And well, in the local society, I dare to say I wouldn't dare to say that half regarding their position for or against this industry or this issue, because I think let's say there's still some sectors of our society, to say something, 30% they are still against it. But I would say that the coming years, I think this consensus will be more reachable. Let's say, according to our president has said, which belonged to a different party than the party that passed the original law in 2013, that some adjustment has to be made on the law, but the law will continue. So this, as different issues in my country, this will come to or arrive to be a political a policy of state regarding this industry too.
Thank you for answer. My group mate Tomiris will continue.
Hello, dear professor. Nice to meet you. Yes, good. My question is, what is Uruguay's official position regarding its cooperation with Kazakhstan within the international arena? Which areas of cooperation between Uruguay and Kazakhstan are being explored within the realm of international relations, such as the economy, politics, the environment, and other sectors?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. You know, I've been making some homework regarding cooperation. I called a friend of mine that works in the Uruguayan Agency of International Cooperation and asked her if there is any cooperation program between Uruguay and Kazakhstan. And well, the only thing I got is there is a cluster of different cooperation agencies in the world within the frame of the European Union, the Horizon program of the European Union, in which participate our Uruguayan Agency of International Cooperation and an agency from Kazakhstan, which is the Independent Experts Consulting Board to promote scientific research activity. And being part of this cluster is supposed to allow or to build a better framework for their respective research communities. You know, there is a boost from the European Union to boost the green and digital transitions, and the way the research is performed and the way the proposals are written and all this sort of paperwork is very, very useful that we have cooperation on these issues, as well as identifying stakeholders on these sectors, and above all to enable participation from countries that need it most. Talking about cooperation, Uruguay has what in terms of cooperation is called graduation, which means that after trespassing a certain threshold of development, it's no longer passive of receiving cooperation. So we have to adjust ourselves to new cooperation mechanisms like the South-South cooperation and the triangular cooperation, which means that a cooperation donor like the European Union, for instance, which is a very important player in cooperation terms, pays Uruguayan technicians in different areas to precisely perform the cooperation assistance to a third country. That's a mechanism that Uruguay is involved on since some years already, due to, precisely as I said, the graduation process it has undergone. In addition to this, and besides that, to conclude this part of cooperation, there are no other programs or about cooperation between Kazakhstan and Uruguay, which of course there is always room to explore alternatives and different way of boosting them. And in another, when I'm reading the question, there's a cooperation between you and Kazakhstan. No, today I've been talking about Uzbekistan in Fergana State University regarding the possibilities or how I see the relations between Latin America and Central Asia as a whole. I talked about what I think is very important, that of course we are far away from each other. It's very difficult because we have to first of all, we have to have cultural or more closer contacts in order to start generating confidence to each other. But we are such in a complex world, a world full of conflicts, and due to the special position Central Asian countries, especially Kazakhstan, have there in the core of Eurasia, for us, talking about Uruguay, even as Latin America, would be very helpful to hear your voice, because you are in a particular situation between two very big powers, Russia, the very powerful economic power from China, not to mention other regional players such as Iran, India, and which pose different challenges, many challenges in terms of infrastructure, in terms of connectivity, in terms of energy. And in some way, Latin America and Central Asia faces similar challenges in this sense. So it would be very useful for us to hear your voice more closely, more precisely, and that's where I advocating for a closer contact with your regions, starting like this case with the academic sector, because I think it should be the very starting point for a relation that has to advance more in depth. But of course, Uruguay has practiced a policy of we call concentric circles, and naturally we have to first of all to attend our regional situation, then our continental situation, then our hemispheric situation, then our Occident situation. We belong to the Western Europe cradle, and afterwards the war. So it happens more or less the same in the case the other way around with Central Asian countries. But having said so, we have to make the effort to coordinate contacts, to coordinate approximation, to approximate each other. Earlier today in the morning, I just thought about, still think about it, that within the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative, for instance, that all Central Asian countries belong to it. The majority of the Latin countries also are member of the Belt and Road. This can be the opportunity to get closer, or even the Qazaq Association, the Central Asian Economic Organization, which works with infrastructure, works with energy. I think there are fora, or there are frameworks that can be used to allow our relations to go more in depth.
So this will be all our questions, and gracias, señor Ramiro Rodríguez, por participar en nuestra entrevista. Realmente apreciamos su vasta experiencia, and we hope to see you in your future. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations for your Spanish, and well, I hope to see you soon. And by the way, afterwards we can arrange a meeting with Susana Magana, with Professor Magana, which will be delighted to answer the Spanish questions, and I will also participate if you let me. Okay.
Of course. So we'll see. We'll hope to see you again in our conferences, because it was really it have been invaluable to us to understand the position of Uruguay, and will be invaluable to discuss the Spanish case with you.